Welcome to the Black Crusader, the channel where we take the Emperor's greatest achievements and twist them into horrible abominations of their former selves. Today we're talking about Horus Lupercal. Horus was the Emperor's favorite son and war master during the Great Crusade. As the heresy's namesake, he was the one responsible for the Emperor's interment into the Golden Throne. But how did Horus make the transition from the Emperor's favorite champion to his most reviled adversary? Well, that's what we're going to find out today, unless the Inquisition murders me first. When Horus was placed into interstellar foster care by the Dark Gods, the warp storms that abducted him deposited the young Primarch on the world of Catonia. Catonia was a former mining colony whose mineral deposits were all but exhausted. Due to this, the planet was dotted with vast underground caverns, ruined hives, and populated by techno-barbarians who were constantly at war with one another. Now, if you're having trouble imagining what a techno-barbarian is, just rewatch Mad Max Fury Road, take away their vehicles, replace them with sci-fi futuristic weaponry, and you should have a pretty good idea as to what a techno-barbarian should look like. Horus was adopted by these tribes and not only learned about their culture and traditions, but also how to fight and lead. Unlike the other Primarch's homeworlds, Catonia was fairly close to Terra, so Horus was discovered relatively quickly during the Great Crusade. He was discovered so much earlier than any of his brothers that Horus was the only Primarch to grow up at the Emperor's side. Mind you, this gives us very little indication if Horus actually managed to conquer his homeworld before the Emperor's arrival. However, considering his legion would afterwards draw its recruits primarily from Catonia, it's a safe bet to assume that Big Daddy helped out with that little detail. The Luna Wolves would become Horus's personal legion and would adopt many of Catonia's traditions, including their language. As Horus joined his father on the Great Crusade, he would remain the only active Primarch for the next 2 to 3 decades in the eyes of the Imperium. This meant that Horus was perfectly positioned to become the favorite child, earning the Emperor's trust and the respect of the other legions. He quickly proved himself to be a military genius and was adept at using small elite strike forces to achieve the greatest results. His conquests were marked by relatively few civilian casualties in as far as planetary invasions are concerned. This is because Horus believed that if a war is to be fought, it should be brutal and short. To this end, he pioneered the Spearhead strategy, which focused on destroying the enemy's command structure. This meant that the Luna Wolves could quickly conquer planets, allowing them to stay mobile and add more worlds to the Imperial fold than any other legion. Perhaps as a result of growing up at the Emperor's side, Horus grew very adept at politics, allowing him to conquer as many worlds through diplomacy and intimidation as he did by warfare. Mind you, there are going to be very few envoys with the capacity to deny an 8-foot-tall superhuman demigod. At the conclusion of the conquest of Valinor, the Emperor decided to go on a hiatus and made Horus War Master. This made Horus the overall commander of all Imperial military assets, including his brother Primarch's legions. As was natural for brothers, not all of them accepted to be led by one of their own, while Horus himself was unsure whether or not he wanted the title in the first place. As the pace of the war progressed, all parties accepted this change and the Great Crusade continued without skipping a beat. Due to the honor bestowed on him, Horus would later rename his legion from the Luna Wolves to the Sons of Horus. However, as the Great Crusade was on the cusp of conquering the galaxy, Horus was once again plagued by doubts. Part of this doubt came from his new rank, but mostly it came from the realization that the Emperor did indeed abandon his sons without sharing his plans as to why. Furthermore, the Emperor commanded that the new political body called the Council of Terra have more powers over the course of the Great Crusade. And just like any future military dictator, Horus chafed at the idea of politicians having control over the legions. Mind you, considering the nature of the Imperium, I kinda have to agree with him on that point. Sadly, he would not get to brood about his problems for long, as he found himself the center of a conspiracy which led him to the moon of Davin. Here he was mortally wounded by a demonically infused weapon called the Anathema. As his body began to fade and no form of medicine could save him from the brink of death, the captains of the Legion decided to take drastic action and took Horus's body to the Serpent's Lodge upon Davin. Mind you, not all of the captains agreed with this action, but I'm sure they managed to work it out eventually. The Serpent's Lodge managed to both heal Horus and corrupt him to the will of the Dark Gods, turning him into one of the biggest foes the Imperium has ever had to face. After his miraculous resurrection, Horus continued his duties as the War Master, but secretly began laying the groundwork for his rebellion. A recent revolt on Eastern Free provided Horus with the perfect opportunity to purge both his and his allied legions of potential loyalists. Guess they didn't work it out as well as I thought. As the loyalists descended on the planet, they were virus-bombed from orbit by their former brothers, and then slaughtered in a grinding siege in the following months. Afterwards, Horus baited 3 of the loyal legions, the Salamanders, Ironhands, and ever-unfortunate Raven Guard, into a trap on Eastern 5. Here, these 3 loyal legions formed the first wave of attack against the traitorous forces of the Death Guard, World Eaters, Emperor's Children, and Sons of Horus. Unfortunately, the second loyalist attack wave was made out of forces drawn from the Night Lords, Iron Warriors, Ward Bearers, and Alpha Legion. These legions have secretly declared for Horus and slaughtered the loyalists as they attempted to fall back to their own lines. The loyalists suffered a crippling defeat, and the rest of the Imperium now found itself crippled and divided. Horus would proceed to send out separate elements of his forces to slow down the other loyal legions, while the bulk of his forces would move on to Terra. During the Siege of Terra, the traitorous forces would find themselves bogged down by the formidable defenses of the Imperial Palace. At the same time, Horus would receive reports that the remaining loyal legions were making their way to Terra. Running out of time, Horus settled on a desperate gamble and lowered the shields of his own flagship, allowing the Emperor to teleport on board with a small strike force. As teleportation technology is ever reliable, the Emperor and his forces were scattered throughout the vessel, and the Emperor had only managed to catch up with Horus once he had killed his once dearest brother, the Blood Angel's Primarch Sanguinius. Realizing that Horus could not be swayed but unwilling to kill his favorite son, the Emperor was mortally wounded in the duel that followed. As the scope of the War Master's corruption became ever more apparent, the Emperor realized that there was no hope left for Horus, and gave him the 40k's equivalent of "I'm not mad at you, son," just disappointed look and obliterated his soul. With the War Master dead and loyalists flooding into the system, the traitors broke and were subsequently scattered. But this is not where Horus's story ends. His body was taken to the Eye of Terror and entombed in a massive shrine on the demon world of Malium. However, the other traitor legions blamed the now poorly named Sons of Horus for the failure of the heresy, and it wasn't long before a coalition of these legions came together to lay siege to the demon world of Malium. And even though the Sons of Horus managed to survive the siege, the body of their Primarch was stolen in order to be cloned, which was seen as a great abomination. Yeah, rape, murder and genocide is okay, but cloning is wrong. Hearing of what had happened, former First Captain Abaddon took command of the remnants of the Legion and led a raid in order to prevent this. During the operation, Abaddon faced the clone of Horus, which he managed to destroy along with all other clones and the remnants of Horus's original body. Denouncing Horus as a weakling, Abaddon renamed the Sons of Horus into the Black Legion, and this is where Horus's story truly ends. I personally always find it a bit ironic that after the heresy both the Emperor and Horus were entombed and subsequently worshipped by their followers. But while the Emperor still possessed his soul in a sense and would be protected and venerated by his favorite sons, Horus was nothing more than a death husk whose favorite lieutenant would destroy his remains and curse his memory. I mean, tell me what you guys think. Is it just irony or an everyday occurrence in the 40k universe? Right guys, that's it for my video. Thank you for watching. Make sure to comment down below on a character you would like to see, and I'll see you again next time.